General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday. And indeed it is. It is the Ides of March, March 15th, 2019. And yesterday was Pi Day. For those that don't know, 3.1467, whatever. But yesterday was Pi Day. And for those that are listening in, Sunday, St. Patrick's Day. That's where everybody's Irish. Do you know that my name is actually Bob O'Roth? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. If you're just tuning in right now, you're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. Our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do we do this? We bring extraordinary guests to the show. And today's no different. I've got a great guest here right across from me. It's a gentleman I met just about a little more than a month ago. His name is Marty Brounstein. Marty, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Marty, it's really good to have you here on the show. You were introduced to me by one of my guests I've had before on the show, Charmaine Roberts.
Right.
She works over at Belmont Village, and you have a long-standing relationship with her because I believe it was her husband was a professor or just a mentor. Fill me in, please.
In a past life, I was once a high school history teacher at a school here in Phoenix called Shadow Mountain.
Yes.
And the department chair for the social studies department was a guy named Dave Roberts, who later on meets someone named Charmaine, and they've been married and certainly friends of ours for quite a long time.
Fantastic.
And supporters of my journey with this story that we'll get into. The very first time I came out here, and I've been 8 years here on this journey with this story, and 8 years coming to the Valley with it, the first event was hosted in their home 8 years ago.
Wow. And this has been an incredible journey, and
yes.
We'll tee this up for our listening audience so they can really understand this mission that you've been on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a pleasure to meet you, and really, one of the things I want to convey to our listening audience is that we've got a lot of older adults out there that have incredible stories. And you listening in today, you may be that adult child, you might be that grandchild, you might be that friend, you might be that neighbor. We got to memorialize these stories.
Capture them, yes.
We have to, because you know what? In a blink of an eye, they're gone.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing today is that everyone has a camera. If you've got a smartphone, which pretty much everyone does, you don't have to videotape it. You can audio record it, but ask questions, learn a little bit about your loved ones.
Get curious.
Yeah, get curious and find out, what their journeys were like. How was their childhood? How did they meet their spouse? And
it's what you're really getting is an oral history.
Right.
Grab the oral histories because you learn so much, let alone for your own family history.
You do. And
very important to do.
And you know what? I know so many people put it off till tomorrow.
And then it's too late.
Yes. And
what's interesting, if I can just interject, is we'll get into my story and my journey. You came to one of my storytelling presentations I did with this story of Two Among the Righteous Few. What you're raising, we often have people come up afterwards, when they're visiting with us or to buy a book. They often say, this has inspired me. I got to go capture, or sometimes they regret that they didn't capture it before that grandparent or parent died, but now that's often the momentum to saying, I want to go down and sit down with them and learn about what their experience was during this time period. Go for it. And in fact, if you're an adult and you're talking about your senior adult to get the story, bring your child. it's often the grandchild we're finding out is the one that the grandparent will more talk to than their own children about, especially if they've been through some traumatic times.
And I've had the pleasure, my family owns a home care agency. Mm-hmm. We've been here in the Valley for 25 years, and we've cared for World War II veterans. We've cared for Korean War veterans. We've cared for Vietnam War veterans. I mean, each one has some incredible stories, and we got to get these memorialized.
Absolutely.
So that is our underlying message for our show today, and I want to just make it very clear that you need to sit down and talk to those that you love and have them tell their stories and record them.
Yes, yeah.
So you wrote a little book here, and you've been on this 8-year mission.
Yes.
And it's called Two Among the Righteous Few.
Right.
So tell me, what is the meaning of the title of this book?
Yes.
So, how did this come to be?
Yes. So, and I'll just brief on the story, and then I'll go to the meaning of the title to connect it. This is the story of two rescuers in the Holocaust. This Dutch couple named Frans and Mien Wijnakker out of the Netherlands, who during World War II, when their country was under the brutal occupation of Nazi Germany, they got involved when most did not, and they saved the lives of over 24 Jews from certain death. So when you look at that title, Two Among the Righteous Few, obviously the two is Frans and Mien, the word righteous, the term itself comes from Yad Vashem. It's something I educate my audiences when I do my presentations. Sure. Some know, many don't. It's the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, Israel, the first of its kind when it was created 1953.
Wow.
And I've been there 3 times myself over the years.
I have as well.
Ah, great. So you know, but many people aren't aware. And there's now many Holocaust museums or education centers around our country and the world.
Right.
This one's still the most prominent. One of its functions, they have a department called Righteous Among the Nations. So that's where the word righteous comes from in the book title. This function recognizes the non-Jews who, during the course of the Holocaust, risked their own lives to try to help save the lives of Jews. The one that most people are aware of, even if not familiar with the term righteous or righteous among the nations, is Oskar Schindler, thanks to Schindler's List, the Oscar-winning movie. Well, Frans and Mien Wijnakker, in simple terms, are 2 Oskar Schindlers. They, too, have received the same heroic recognition of righteous among the nations. And to finish the book's title, it's Two Among the Righteous Few, not two among the righteous many. There were not a lot of non-Jews who were willing to get involved and help. Had there been, we wouldn't see over 11 million people murdered in the Holocaust, and 6 million of those were Jews.
So our segments go really fast. So, without jumping into all of this, how did you come across this? So, what propelled you to tell this story?
It's a story I stumbled into by accident on a trip to the Netherlands with my wife in May of 2009. And we were doing, this is my first time to go there. She's originally from the country, immigrated to the U.S. when she was about 14. And we're 4 or 5 weeks into it. She has this curiosity. I wonder if we can find any of the Wijnakker family. There's a particular personal interest to that, which we can get into a little bit more. One thing led to another, serendipity. And we actually, while Frans and Mien are not alive, I end up meeting their 5 children. And the first one I met, who lives in the actual house where his parents' rescue activity took place, Frans Wijnakker Jr., he shows us the plaque. He says to us, my wife and I went to Yad Vashem last year. Well, I know the place. And this is a plaque from our parents in the Avenue of the Righteous, indicating they're righteous among the nations. See, I knew what that meant, and I was blown away. And that was kind of the beginning of how I stumbled into this, and then one thing led to another over time.
Incredible. And more than the story being incredible is the fact that you have really made this your mission.
Yeah, yes.
And really,
not by design either.
No, but I mean, you're spending so much time capital telling the story, and it's so important to tell the story.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, this journey with it now is 8 years. And as I leave the Valley now to go back to my home base of the San Francisco Bay Area, I just finished 685 events.
685
in
events.
A wide variety of venues, from storytelling presentations, book discussions in schools, and workshops at conferences and workplaces.
Well, you know what? It has certainly fueled your passion, and I want to hear more when we come back. It's hard to believe we're down one segment. Marty, we got 3 more. Stick around. We'll be right back. You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I got Marty Brounstein here in the studio. We'll be right back.
Please tell us why you had to hide away for so long. Hi, I'm certified financial planner Nancy Fleming, and did you know a fellow woman named Elizabeth Maggie created the Landlord's Game to help her friends feel the unfairness of land grabbing while having fun? Like most women, we have a more encompassing attitude about our world. We approach our financial well-being as a means to an end. We ask more questions. We match our investment choices closely with our goals. That's how I do it. If that's how you do it, then accept this invitation for my complimentary retirement roadmap by calling 480-632-8770. Elizabeth's game was changed to Monopoly. Keep your game true by calling me, Nancy Fleming, at 480-632-8770 or text the word RETIRE to 33222. That's the word RETIRE to 33222.
Fleming Financial Services, Inc. is a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Arizona and in other jurisdictions where exempt registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training.
People don't fail in life because they want too much. They fail because they settle for too little. Our new program, Wealth Empowers, with Dr. Gary and Kevin Lawrence, is a father and son team dedicated to help you create your new financial future. Not just another talk show, but your opportunity to learn how to create your new financial platform. Wealth Empowers, Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. here on Money Radio 1510 a.m. and 105.3 FM. I'm Dr. G.
Hi, Solar Sandy here. Currently, you're buying expensive power from your power company, paying fees, taxes, and all kinds of charges for your electricity. I want you to save money on a bill you're already spending too much on, and it's going to keep going up. To get saving with solar, fill out my kilowatt worksheet, and then I come to your house to show you how many panels you need and how much PYOP, producing your own power, will save you. No more high electric bills. It's really quite simple. Now you produce your own power and pay less for it. Go to my website, that's AskSolarSandy.com.
The time has come to give the old way to buy a car the boot. With Carvana, you can skip the dealership and buy your next car online from the comfort of your home or on the go. Choose the new way to buy a car by visiting Carvana.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and it sounds like we got a little ELO going there, Wes. ELO. All right. Way to go. Rock on. You've been listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth. If you're just tuning in, I got Marty Brounstein here in the studio. And he is here talking about this book that he wrote. It's called Two Among the Righteous Few. And if you missed the first segment, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. The third button down is radio show. You'll be able to catch the first segment. You'll be able to catch about 280 others that we've been bringing to you for the last 6 years. So we kind of set the stage about this story being about the Weihnachters. And this is about Franz and Mien, who are really among the righteous few, who, as you said, kind of are like Schindler, Oskar Schindler, in terms of saving lives, saving Jews that were not Jewish. And they were in the Netherlands.
Right.
So really, I want you to paint a picture for our listening audience. What was life like in the Netherlands during World War II under the occupation of Nazi Germany?
Oppressive and brutal. They will suffer greatly, the Dutch, during the course of the war, let alone put the persecution that will happen to the Jews aside. The tough economic times, the Nazis will put a lot of restrictions on the population. Freedom of press is gone. Freedom of speech is gone. The handful of protests that the Dutch will do against this oppressive rule will be met with force and execution. And one of the things that scared the Dutch a lot during the war was the term forced labor. The Germans were taking from people from their occupied countries, and the Netherlands is right next door, and sending them to work in Germany because they didn't have enough of their own labor for their huge war machine. And during the course of the war, 350,000 Dutch citizens went into forced labor, into work in Germany. 30,000 did not come home alive.
Wow.
Franz Weihnachter later in the war got notice. He is supposed to go now work in Germany. It was a major obstacle he had to try to overcome. And in time, when you start to see some resistance efforts by the Dutch, the Nazis would just be so brutal in their reprisals. As one example, and I can remember in my first time, now I've been 4 times in the Netherlands, This was in a nice neighborhood in Amsterdam, the Apollo Lawn neighborhood. And if you go in there, you'll see this big statue of 3 Dutch resistance fighters in kind of this nice area. The backstory to it is that around October of 1944, when the Dutch resistance hit one of the Nazi SS folks, they just went into that neighborhood where they think it was from, and they just pulled everybody out, rounded up 29 suspected Dutch resistance people, and had the neighborhood watch them execute them all and burn houses down. And this was the common response through the war of what this was like. And you had Dutch also joining in. The Dutch had their own Nazi party that will just explode in numbers once the Germans take over. So this was a sample of what life was like that would make even those who thought of maybe helping, no, I'm not going to bother. And most Dutch won't. Franz and Mien were quite exceptional that way.
They sound like they're exceptional people, and my next question is, why did the Weihnachters get involved?
Yes.
And starting this act, why would they risk their lives when they saw what that war machine was doing to the people that were trying to fight them off?
And there's kind of 2 aspects to what how did they get involved and why. Let me do the how first.
Okay.
The why is even a little more complex. The how was by accident. They didn't do this by design. During the war, Franz took a leave of absence from a job he had at a grain mill one town over, and they lived in the countryside, so they're less exposed than if you're in the big cities.
Right.
But he would travel 2 hours by train to the west to the big cities like The Hague, the capital city, Amsterdam, and he was selling meat and eggs to people in the cities. Scarce food in the country. The Germans have taken a lot of cattle and chicken away. It was a black market business, so that's not legal. Don't get caught. And he's on one of these business trips in spring of 1943. And he's calling upon this customer he's done business with before. And before he leaves the meeting with the customer turns and says, "Would you be willing to help?" And he then explains, we have this young girl hiding here in the city of Amsterdam. We'd love to get her out to the countryside where you live. And let's say you took her home for 3 weeks. That way she could get a little better food and a little better fresh air. Oh, and by the way, she's Jewish. So would you be willing to help? And Franz, in somewhat maybe a naive way, said yes. And that's where it began. And when he brought this girl home, you don't sneak somebody out of the cities during the day.
Right.
He doesn't get home till near midnight. So his wife, Mien, of course, is worried. She's wondering, did he get arrested for the black market business? She's not sleeping. And here he shows up unexpectedly with this young girl. She was 14. And he explained briefly, we're going to just keep her maybe for 3 weeks. And Mien's response was this: "It's late. Let's get her to bed." She welcomed her in.
Wow.
That was not the common thing. Likely there was this trust in their relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's how it started. And then over time, in the end, they saved the lives of over 24 Jews.
And what's amazing is that we take so much for granted in the way we communicate. Because if we had some younger listening audience or younger people listening in on this, they would say, well, why didn't Franz just text Mien and say, "I'm running late"?
Exactly.
I'm on a mission, but I'll be right there.
I often say that to audiences, or when I go inside schools, the students have read the book before I come, and I facilitate discussion. High educational impact. So we remind them, there were no cell phones. What do you think Mien felt and thought? And now they've read the book, and they're getting a sense of that. And then we say, and I phrase this to them as well. If you come in from a 2-parent household, and it's okay if you haven't, but have you ever had the experience where one of your parents made a major life decision without first consulting with the other? And then when the other found out, what happened? Who's noticed that? I've got at least more than half the students raising their hand. And what happened? And they all say the same thing. Big argument, big fight. I had one class of students said, World War III broke out in my house.
Wow.
And then we say, what was Mien's response? Wow, she just didn't react like that. She just said, let's
get her to bed.
Let's get her to bed. And what did that tell you? Probably about their relationship.
Amazing.
People pick up the trust. And so certainly this, in terms of why they helped, while we don't know exactly, the information that God always spoke to what they did, not why, this willingness to help, this courage, this compassion that just came to the surface during this 2-year time period they're involved, I think were factors that led them to do this.
So I'm making the assumption that it wasn't just this 14-year-old girl. So
that's where it started.
That's where it started. So I'm wanting to. I need more. Tell me how much more did they do?
In time, and very early, this girl that they knew only by her false name, Freitje, they find out shortly afterwards that she's still got a younger brother hiding in Amsterdam, and Mien tells Franz, go get him. And then a short time afterwards, another young person, a girl of 17, who happened to be Jewish, is brought their way. 3 Jewish children refugees. It's starting to build.
Right.
Then one of the resistance groups in the Netherlands, known by the initials LO, their focus, instead of doing hit-and-run attacks or sabotage, was hide people from the German authorities. So they reach out to Franz and Meen, one of their contacts, and basically ask them for more help. We can fund an operation. Can you go around your local towns and recruit people to take others in? We're trying to get the remaining Jews still hiding in the cities out before it's too late. This was now almost late summer of 43 when this request. And Franz and Meen said, yes. And then this explodes. And now he's building this rescue network, taking people not only in their own home, but placing people throughout the local little towns in their area with all the challenges and risk and hassles that becomes. And they pulled it off remarkably.
And what's amazing, this is 1943.
That's right.
We're in the middle of all of this.
And right in the height of the war.
Right.
Things are tough in the Netherlands. The Nazis are brutalizing the people. They're controlling the country. And they're getting Dutch Nazis to help them and others. So why would you even get involved?
Well, and I know that we're doing an abbreviated version. I got a chance to visit with you back in February. You spoke at the St. Thomas More Catholic Church, and you really took your audience through this. I'm guessing there were probably 80 people in the room, maybe
right.
even 100. And the beautiful thing that you did was you put up maps. So for our listening audience, so they can really visualize this.
Yes.
I mean, we're looking at the Netherlands. And so that you understand, it's right next to Germany.
That's right.
I mean, how many miles are we talking? I mean, we talking, here we are in Phoenix or Scottsdale, Arizona. Is it the distance from Phoenix to Tucson? I mean, how close?
Well, in terms of where they were, they lived in southeastern Netherlands, and Germany's on the eastern border. So from there to Germany, you could probably get there in less than an hour.
Wow.
And the cities in the west, because Netherlands itself, area-wise, is not a big country.
Right.
I often will say to audiences here is, you drive 3-4 hours in any direction, you hit the whole country, you're not out of Maricopa County yet.
Exactly.
That's how small, though densely populated country. So Germany, anyone in the east, Germany's right on your border. And certainly at this point, they've conquered the country. The major cities are in the west. And Franz train rides were usually about 2 hours to get there. But this is a country that's been pretty much shut down, as Nazi Germany did for most of Europe. They occupy it by 43. They're controlling all of this.
Now, as you can hear, this is messages to my listening audience. You're an incredible storyteller, Marty.
Well, thank you.
You really are. I thought I was good, but you are exceptional.
I got a great story to tell.
So you've been on this journey and sharing your special story, and for me, I want, when we come back, because we're almost at halftime here, I want you to share what has this entailed. Because
good.
You told me how many days? How many dates have you done over the last 8 years?
685.
685. Wow. That is exceptional.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, stick around. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. I've got Marty Brounstein here in the studio. He's talking about his book. It's called Two Among the Righteous Few. If you want to learn more about this book and about Marty, go to Marty A. Brounstein. He spells his last name BROUNSTEIN.com. Halftime at Health Future. Stick around. We'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
President Trump is about to sign his first veto of his presidency, rejecting the effort by Congress to overturn his border emergency declaration. Correspondent Caitlin Collins at the White House.
The president has zero hesitation about signing this veto. He's actually, in fact, seems to be relishing it.
As Saturday dawns on New Zealand, the whole world will be looking for answers in the brutal and deadly assault at 2 mosques that killed 49 Muslims and sent 48 others to the hospital. The gunman, a self-described racist, is due in court today. Presidential candidate Amy Klobuchar says President Obama should have put a lid on drug prices when the Affordable Care Act was being negotiated.
I see it as a missed opportunity, but now we must move forward.
The head of Toyota North America warns the tariffs that President Trump is threatening to impose on foreign vehicles would make it hard for that company to follow through on its $750 million in plant investment in the U.S. I'm Mike Moss.
If your family depends on your income and something happened to you, what would happen to them? You need life insurance, and SelectQuote can help you get it at a price you can afford.
SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, who's in excellent health, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month.
Not in perfect health? Don't worry.
SelectQuote found Tanya, 40, who has type 2 diabetes, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $32 a month.
We shop companies like Protective, Prudential, American General, and others to find you the company with the best rates. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
For your free quote, call 1-800-460-9090. That's 1-800-460-9090. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-460-9090.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
When you invest, what's your pleasure? A good combination of approaches sometimes works out best. The how-to manual is right here every day on Money Radio.
Hello, I'm Mo Ansari, host of Market Wrap and president of Compact Asset Management. What a difference a day makes in these markets. But will you be on the right side from one day to the next? Market volatility is the time when you need to remain the most rational about your investment decisions. Yet it is the time when investors become the most emotional and often make devastating choices. So if you need some help, dial pound 250 on your cell phone, use the keyword TALK to Mo, and ask for your free report on coping with market volatility. You can also make an appointment to meet with me for a free portfolio review. Again, from your cell phone, dial pound 250, talk to Mo, and get your free report, Coping with Market Volatility. Ask for your free portfolio review also.
Compact Asset Management is a registered investment advisor. Funds custodian, Fidelity Institutional Wealth Services, member FINRA, SIPC.
Here's an important message from the Arizona Corporation Commission's Securities Division, a state agency that enforces our state's investment laws to protect Arizona investors. Grow your money wisely. Just about every investment that offers a big return involves just as big a risk. If you're offered an investment that is supposed to be no to low risk and guarantees a big return on your money, ask and check before you invest. Contact our investigator on duty by email at info@azinvestor.gov or by telephone at 602-542-0662. Again, that number is 602-542-0662. So remember, until money grows on trees, ask and check before you invest. For more information about wise investing, visit azinvestor.gov. This message has been brought to you by the Arizona Corporation Commission's Securities Division, funded by a grant by the Investor Protection Trust.
Dell Small Business Technology Advisors know there's nothing small about your business. They provide one-on-one partnership and reliable Dell PCS and Intel Core processors to get business done. Call 877-BY-DELL.
I'm Jim Chesko with Your Money Now. Stocks are moderately higher here in the session's final hour. The Dow Industrial is up 127 points. The NASDAQ Composite has gained 65. The S&P 500 is up 13. Last Sunday's deadly crash of one of its jets has taken a hefty toll on Boeing and its stock price. Over the first 4 days of the week on Wall Street, Boeing's shares dropped 13%, shaving more than $31 billion in market value in the process. Boeing stock is up today, a gain of 1.9%. More evidence that an expected slowdown is indeed hitting the U.S. economy. Manufacturing output declined for the second consecutive month in February. Federal Reserve data out today showed that output at U.S. factories dropped 0.4% last month after sliding 0.5% in January. Output of machinery and electronics both dropped. The Securities and Exchange Commission is suing Volkswagen and its former CEO over the German automaker's diesel emissions scandal, accusing the company of perpetrating a massive fraud on U.S. investors. That's Your Money Now.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-244-6060. That's 800-244-6060. 800-244-6060. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're on the second half here, and we're getting brought in by The Who, a little Baba O'Reilly. Some people think that's Teenage Wasteland, but no.
Bob O'Reilly.
Or Bob B. Roth.
Yeah, yes.
That could be that, too.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning in, I have got Marty Brounstein here in the studio, and Marty has written an incredible book, and it's called The Two Among the Righteous Few. It's a story of courage in the Holocaust. And we are talking about the Weihnacher, and they were rescuers. It's Franz and me. And if you missed the first two segments, you got to go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. Third button down is radio show. You'll catch the first two segments, and you'll catch about 280 others that we've been bringing you. So we're talking about the Weinachers, and this is an incredible story. And as I left off on the second segment, you've been on quite a journey.
Yes.
And you've done a lot of dates over the last 8 years.
Yes.
And sharing this special story. And I want you to just share, what has that entailed?
Yes.
Tell me, what's that been like? Because you've been on the road.
Sometimes, yes. It's evolved.
And you meet a lot of people.
Well, that's the real good side. So I'll go with what is involved, and then I'll talk about some of the good people we've met.
Right.
I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I've done various events there in a wide variety of venues. Churches, synagogues, occasionally churches and synagogues have hosted me together. I had one out here in the Valley, my last public event. Fantastic. Over probably 100-plus people there. Because it's an interfaith story.
I love interface stories.
This is what this is. I've been inside workplaces, in schools where I lead book discussions now with students, because I found some teachers. We've got one school and two schools in the Bay Area that I've done 7 years of tradition, because each year they have a new class. And all sorts of organizations, service organizations I never knew existed before. But this fits, because this is service at its best. I had even a couple of Muslim organizations host me. Libraries, bookstores, people's homes, as I mentioned here, Dave and Charmaine Roberts when I came to the Valley. I've now taken this to 15 other metropolitan areas besides my home base, and some more than once. I'll be going back to New York for the 5th time. I'm a keynote speaker for 2 Holocaust Remembrance Day events out there, April 30th and May 1st. So if you got anybody out in New York, send them my way.
Exactly.
So this has kind of evolved.
And you do post this up on your website.
Yes. Yes. We'll put the calendar up there shortly for that. We put those events in there. And what's been neat along the journey is I've met people who've become supporters. And they've often just spread the word when I tell them, hey, I'm speaking somewhere in your vicinity, and they tell friends or family. In many cases, they're the people that get me into the organizations I speak in, or they make the introduction to the key people. Because people over the years want to suggest you ought to speak in this place and that place. It won't matter. I don't speak in places. People bring me to places. And it's the connections to people. How we met, same thing. Supporters saying, hey, this might be someone who could be receptive to you. Let me make an introduction. And more often than not, it has led to positive outcomes that's been very exciting. And people continue to be supporters today.
It is incredible, the journey you've been on. And,
Thank you.
And really, the story that you tell is about the Von Knockers. You talk about Franz and you talked about Mean. What were some of the challenges and the dangers, that they must have encountered? I mean, we saw, or you painted the picture of what the Netherlands was like during World War II under Nazi occupation.
Very difficult.
But, you probably delved into some of this.
Yes. So, in brief, many challenges and dangers. Once they got very much involved, and the risk is hanging over your head the whole time, the danger that if you get caught, you're gone. You're going to ship you to the concentration camps that they're sending the Jews to. So death awaits you. And they had 4 little children of their own. So they're obviously at risk by this involvement. And all it takes is one person to betray you. And so they have to be careful who they're asking for help in their local area. So among the challenges, 2 of the big authority figures of the local area, one finds out, their local parish priest, not happy. Luckily he doesn't betray them, but he's not happy. A big thorn. The local police chief, who wants to be on the good side of the Nazis because they're running the show. And he's always suspicious. They'll get threats of raids. There'll actually be 2 real raids in the house. They'll even have the threat of, because they had a rental house, that they may get sent to somebody else who's probably a Dutch Nazi sympathizer. Franz got summons that, hey, you're supposed to go work in Germany as part of the forced labor, and that's something he has to try to overcome. Multitude of challenges and dangers in the rescue network that then he builds over time. Anytime there was some little hassle, it often led to those people saying, nope, not going to keep the Jewish person here any longer. We're worried about being betrayed was the term. And then it's constant reshuffle. And they just persisted, which is amazing.
Well, it says a lot about them that the chief of police and their priest, knew about it. But I think it shows the human spirit that they still had.
Absolutely.
Because we try to figure out how nobody didn't say anything.
Yes.
And you hear the story about the Von Knockers, and then you hear about the police chief, you hear about the priest, and you hear about some others that were like the Schindlers of the world that were out there to help rescue.
Absolutely. And you're living, and certainly among, and part of my journey with this as I continue to study and sometimes do talks about other heroes of the Holocaust, both righteous like Franz and Mean, the non-Jews, to Jewish resistance and rescuers. There were Jews that helped rescue Jews that often gets little attention. And some, of course, not only risked their lives, lost their lives, or the people they were trying to help got taken away. Miraculously, they did not get caught, and anybody that they were able to take into their house or the rescue network also was saved. That was pretty miraculous.
That is pretty miraculous. So, you talked about when you went to the Netherlands for the first time.
Yeah.
You got to meet some of the related parties to the Von Knocker
There are 5 children.
Yeah, there are 5 children, and one of them happened to be Franz Jr.
Correct. And he was the first one we met.
And I just, I want to get a sense of what that must have been like for you.
Yes. It was probably, as my wife would say, I have not been the same since. When he went into the house, and he was, we'll get into that in a moment, he was very excited to see my wife.
Mm-hmm. They
knew her. And then when he went into the house while we're visiting this for just about an hour, is when he said, my wife and I went to Yad Vashem last year. Well, I know the place. And then when he showed us the picture of the plaque to their parents as righteous among the nations from Yad Vashem, that blew me away, because you don't get that for just showing up. Something heroic, something significant must have happened here, and this happened to be the house. It doesn't look the same today. He's remodeled it. He owns it. The other thing he said in that initial visit, he's saying, come on over to my front door. He's explained it. The house doesn't look the same. I've remodeled it, but you see where this garden is by my front door? Uh-huh. Well, where a piece of this garden is today is where once was the hiding room. Well, who's got that in their house? So that's what begins to spark me wanting to discover more. And then they invited us to come back Wednesday evening. It was a Monday afternoon. And they've got 4 other siblings, and actually one had arrived when we showed up. And they said, we're going to go to our sister Irene's house, and we'll see if we can get together. And the 5 Weinacher children came. And that was the beginning. I've now had 3 other visits since where I've spent more time with them. But they ended up supporting me doing this book about their parents, who they're very proud of.
I can only imagine. I really can only imagine. So this journey, this story comes with a crescendo, if you like, and I know that our listening audience is probably as curious as I am. So what really brought this to be? What brought you to the Netherlands and really, learning about the vine knockers?
No, that's a great question. In fact, if you've got that flyer from one of my events that you got to attend. Mm-hmm. For your audience, if you can read, to set up your question even more, read that sentence that says, Marty also.
Okay. Marty also has a meaningful personal connection to the story, which he reveals in his engaging storytelling presentation.
All right, and as you know, as you're talking about the crescendo, you're wanting to give away my big secret here, and that's all audiences know when they come into the storytelling presentation. Well, among the 24+ Jews that Franz and Mien saved was a young married couple similar in age to them. And when that couple, through the resistance, was able to get out of Amsterdam, fall of 1943, and make it to the Weinacher home in the countryside, the wife had a secret she could not keep secret any longer. She was already pregnant. How do you get a baby born to a Jewish woman in Nazi-occupied Holland? The answer, impossible.
Yeah.
And why would you even bother? Because at this point, their rescue activity was in full bloom and lots of challenges and lots of people to care for. In brief, Franz and Mien decided they would take on this most impossible challenge. And they performed a miracle.
Wow.
They got the baby born, and they kept her and her parents safe until liberation finally came.
And liberation did come.
Yes.
And also a break is coming.
All right, then we'll finish it right after the break.
So we'll finish it on the fourth segment. But, wow, I mean, incredible. And the story gets better. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. And I got Marty Brounstein here in the studio. He is got a great inspirational story of courage and compassion. It's called Two Among the Righteous Few. If you want to learn more about it, go to martybrounstein.com. We're down 3, Marty. We've got one more to go. 4th segment. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you sick and tired of hearing, don't buy an annuity until you've spoken to the so-called experts? If so, call 800-957-5604, extension 200, to learn the concept of a principal-protected, low-cost, new generation annuity and the various options. Listen to Secured Financial Solutions every Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. on this station to prevent a derailed retirement and from purchasing the wrong annuity, especially the high-risk, high-fee variable annuity and complex proprietary index annuities. Secured Financial Solutions will help you understand the difference between true stated guarantees and non-guaranteed returns. Call 800-957-5604, extension 200, and visit dreamretire.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Virtue Capital Management, LLC, VCM, and Registered Investment Advisor. VCM and Secured Financial Solutions, LLC are independent of each other. Annuities are insurance products backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the insuring insurance company. Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Power Networking Group is a proud sponsor of the Power Networking Radio Hour. Hi, I'm Pat Larson, co-founder of the Power Networking Group. We are one of the most powerful and fastest growing small business networking groups in Pinal County, and now chapters are forming in Phoenix and Scottsdale too. Power Networking Group is a new way for small businesses to network and grow. And the best thing is that our networking events are free. That's right. If you own a home-based or brick-and-mortar business in Arizona and want to take advantage of monthly networking events, professional development workshops, speed networking, small business expos, and so much more, you should join Power Networking Group today. Give us a call at 888-432-8187 or visit us on Facebook at Power Networking Group or our website, powernetworkinggroup.org, for more information and start growing your business today.
The time has come to give the old way to buy a car the boot. With Carvana, you can skip the dealership and buy your next car online from the comfort of your home or on the go. Choose the new way to buy a car by visiting Carvana.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. It is Cowbell Friday. Little lover boy working for the weekend, taking us into our last final segment. I've got Marty Brounstein here in the studio. We are talking about a book he wrote. It's called Two Among the Righteous Few. It's an inspirational story of courage and compassion. It's about the Von Knocker family, both Franz and Meen. And Marty, in our third segment, if you missed it, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com, click on the media button, third button down is the radio show. He teed up this last crescendo, if you would, talked about this couple that came to the Von Knockers and the wife was pregnant.
That's right. And this gets to my meaningful personal connection to this story. And in brief, in this most impossible challenge that Franz and Meen faced, and they faced many as we talked before, they decided to take it on. And they performed a miracle. They got the baby born. They kept her parents safe and actually together until liberation finally came. They even went as far as, which the young couple agreed with, when the baby was born, they registered her with the authorities as their child.
Wow.
So she could be a baby with their small children rather than a baby in hiding. And even during the course of that, part of that, the whole strategy, Meen to the outside world would put pillows under her clothes as if she was pregnant. Luckily, she wasn't pregnant at the time.
Wow.
So this is all part of the strategy to pull this miracle off. I
got chills.
In 3 days, it'll be March 18th, that'll mark 12 years that I've been married to that miracle baby. That's my wife, Leah Bars, and the Von Knockers know her by her Dutch nickname, Ineke, which was part of the curiosity. She had lost touch with them. 25 years had gone by. And here we're doing this trip. In May of 2009, she has to find them, and we did.
So she found all five,
Yes.
and she is actually the sixth.
In essence, yes.
In essence. I mean, because she was kind of like an adopted.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
I mean, it was interesting, too, because we've had 3 other travels since back into the Netherlands, since this May 2009 trip. And now that she's reconnected with the Von Knocker family and is able to be in touch, Nellie, the oldest, who became the point person when I put the book together, on those 3 subsequent visits, when she heard, you're coming in the country, well, make sure you come stay with us. To something you just raised on a visit like 2 years later, our next visit. And as we're getting ready to leave, and we'd stayed with her and her family there 3 days. This is when you know you had a good visit, because in the little bit of English she speaks, she said to me, when are you coming back? And then with tears in her eyes, she hugged my wife very closely and said in Dutch, Dag, mijn oorlogzuster. Goodbye, my war sister. That's the reminder to them. My wife is their reminder of how proud they are of their parents.
Amazing.
Yes.
I got goosebumps. And I will tell you, and I want to share our listening audiences, get these stories.
Yeah.
Marty, you've done an amazing job to really help tell the story. And really, you know, my message to our listening audience is, with your older adult relatives, loved ones, friends, you know, start memorializing these things, because we take them for granted.
Absolutely.
And if we don't memorialize them, then they're going to be lost forever. And you, with your tenacity and your desire and your passion, been able to really pull the story together and tell it, and wrote the book, and you've been on the speaking tour, you know, 800 some odd dates, and you got a couple coming up in New York.
Right.
You know, I want to give just a real plug again, another plug to his website. It's Marty A. Brounstein. It's B-R-U-N.
B-R-O-U-N.
I'm sorry, BROUNSTEIN.com. I also want to give our listening audience, and I shared this with you earlier, there's a big event coming up here. It is on March the 20th. That's Wednesday next week at 2 p.m. at the Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts. It's about Kurt Klein. And some of our listening audience may know Gerda Weissman Klein, who is a world-renowned Holocaust survivor. Her husband, Kurt, was her liberator. And they're going to tell his story. Even though he is passed, they're going to share the story.
Wonderful.
So you can sign up for that. It's at 2 p.m. at the Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts, 602-338-2214, March 20th.
And it's the power of stories, and certainly these stories of the heart and courage and care, all those things need to be told, as you said.
But I think it's just the risk that the Vinekers took. I mean, the fact that they put their own lives and their families at risk is truly remarkable. You know, Marty, as we wind down, we have just a couple minutes here. What would your lasting messages be to our listening audience?
What's interesting is what audiences have told me, to your question. And I'd say even more so in the last 2.5 years. And I'll take you to an event I had summer 2016, speaking at a church in Chicago. And my host, the pastor, before he introduces me directly, of course, we're in the midst of the presidential election. We know the contenders. We don't know the outcome yet. He says this to the audience. What we see happening in our country today is this growing divisiveness and polarization, let alone growing extremism around the world. We need to be reminded of the good in people and the positive values that we should have. Our speaker tonight is going to bring you such a story. And that's what audiences have been taking away of this, the positive messages. My workshop, in brief, is titled Making a Positive Difference, that I take inside organizations. And that's what I've been wanting people to take most from this, is the good lessons we can apply.
I love that. And we have so many older adults right now that are living alone. Almost a third of our population, 65 and older, lives alone. And, you know, one of the things they do is they watch TV all day. And to that point, I mean, there's nothing good that's on the news. And it just speaks such negative stuff, you know, and you really want to talk about and focus on the positive things.
That's right.
And that really makes for healthy aging. So, you know, one of the projects that our listening audience should take on is start memorializing your loved one's stories.
Go get the stories down, yes.
Go get the stories. Well, I know you got a big journey ahead of you. You're heading back to the Bay Area this weekend.
Right.
And I wish you well. And I know
Thank
you're
you.
going to be coming back here again next fall.
Next winter.
Next winter.
Yes.
And, you know, you'll probably have a lineup of places you'll be speaking at, so we'll make sure we broadcast them right here on our show.
Fantastic. I look forward to it.
Marty Brounstein, thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you much.
Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We'll be back next Friday. Little Fleetwood Mac, take us out.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Financial words of wisdom with Market Wrap host Mo Ansari.
There should be a little sign like this on the side of cigarette packets. Picking tops and bottoms can be hazardous to your wealth. Don't try to do it.
It's helpful financial food for thought on your drive home with a host who tells it like it is. Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
Catch Market Wrap on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM Monday through Friday at 5 p.m.
Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
KFNN Mesa, Phoenix, and K287BX Mesa. No matter what the temperature, even the nice 71 degrees it is right now, it's always cool to be in total charge of your finances. Money Radio will tell you how. Take a look at the market. Dow up 125 points at 25,840. S&P up 12 points at 2821, and NASDAQ up 55 points at 7,686.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin